Hello everybody, my name is Stefano and I've been keeping orchids for I think about 20 years by now. I live in North England and I like warm growing orchids, and so as you can see I ended up building a greenhouse for myself. This is not my first enclosure for plants that I've had, so it took me a bit to graduate to this size of enclosure. This is my office and I really like having it in here because it's very good whenever I get a little bit bored or frustrated at work to just get a break and have a look at my plants and going in and spraying them and checking on their progress. So this is great. This is a 6 by 4 feet greenhouse by Canopia, which is made for the outdoors. Actually, I could not find any greenhouse made for indoors, so I decided to build one for outdoors in here. And it's been a little bit tricky to build here. It took me maybe 2 days, and I'm pretty handy with these things. But eventually, I put it all together. This is plexiglass, is not glass, so at the very least it didn't weigh all that much. But in this video I will be talking to you as to what was my thought process in putting this together. I'll show you a little bit around the greenhouse, and I will be talking about a few topics kind of quickly, but I wanted to discuss those topics in more detail later on in other videos. So I already mentioned that this is a 6 by 4 greenhouse that is 120 by 160 centimeters, and it is aluminium and plexiglass. Now, being this an outdoor greenhouse, most of them come without any flooring at all. So this I bought separate. It's a vinyl for flooring, relatively cheap. I bought it of the correct size and then I cut it, which was relatively easy to do, and I thought that I would have needed to glue it to the frame. You can see here, this is the frame of the greenhouse, and I thought that I would have needed to glue it maybe with some silicone or something, but actually once I cut it to kind of the perfect size, I noticed that because this vinyl tends to sit in such a way that will basically prevent any water going under it, then I didn't actually need to do anything about it. So I just place it here and it works perfectly. Every so often I make sure that it's still dry under here, which so far it has been. I'm pretty confident that as long as I don't damage it with maybe like tools or something like that, this will be fine. This is for, again, bathrooms and the like. So as long as I don't like use anything sharp here, it should work for a very long time. As you can see, I haven't even started I haven't even watered today at all, and is already a little bit wet on the floor, and that is because yesterday I watered a little bit too heavily, I guess. So yeah, that's why you need some waterproof flooring. Moving on to my water, you can see this rather ugly, to be honest, bucket of water here. But this is actually very handy, and I have it here for a couple of reasons. The first one is that this is rainwater. I collect it from outside where I have a water bath, and the water from my tap would be around 120, 130 TDS, so that is relatively soft water. But orchids are very sensitive to hard water, and they really thrive with rainwater. So this bucket, I fill it with rainwater from outside, and the last time I tested it, it was 34 TDS, which is much better. I do need to add some fertilizer to it from time to time. I like to add little at a time often, and for now I'm using this fertilizer that I'm collecting here. That is from my wormery, which is basically where I keep the compost, and it's a pretty good fertilizer, so I just mix that with the water from time to time. I dunk this can inside the bucket to get the water, and then I add a little bit of fertilizer. It's a little bit harder to fertilize plants that are mounted like this, because obviously I don't want to add too much fertilizer to my spraying can, otherwise it's gonna make everything dirty when I spray around, because I spray around quite heavily. Speaking about my spraying can, this is a 5-liter spraying can. I would highly recommend something like this if you have this many plants. It makes life a lot easier. I do spray every day. I don't need to, but I just like to do it, and I think it's better for the plants. And the good thing about this spraying can is that obviously you can pump it with this, and it will get into pressure. And then after that, you actually need to do very little work. This is very light, and it has a very long reach, so that you can spray everywhere for a very long period of time without having to pump and without having to put much effort, really, which is great. So we've been through water, and now we can talk about the shelving. This is Amazon Basic shelving, and they were pretty cheap. This is basically 1.5 of them, because I have 3 units in my greenhouse. Normally they will be about 180 centimeters maybe tall, so I'm using basically 3 halves of them. And I didn't quite think about this, to be completely honest with you, but they are obviously rusting a little bit. Now this shouldn't be much of a problem. This, to be honest, that I'm showing you is the worst of it, because the one that is near it, I spray every day, so this is the worst area, to be honest. It's not too bad because the plants don't tend to touch this rust all that much, but you know, then again, there are some plants that are somewhat very close to it, a little bit too close for comfort, I think. So I do know that they do make this in black paint, so maybe at some point I will upgrade to that one. But these are quite good. One reason why I like this is because they are very sturdy, and they have pretty big gaps, and through these gaps obviously you want light to filter through it, but also I like it for ventilation. Speaking of ventilation, let me tell you what is my setup, because I believe that is something that is very easy to overlook in a greenhouse. I have these 12 centimeters PC fans, and they are incredibly quiet. If you do hear a noise now, that is definitely the light fan, not these fans. I have 5 of them, so they are oriented in such a way that the air goes anti-clockwise. So there is one there, and then there are 2 in that corner, and then there is one down there and another one down here. So there are 5. They make the air go anti-clockwise, and the reason why they are important is because the humidity is very high in this greenhouse, about 80%, sometimes easily in the high 90s, and that is great for orchids, don't get me wrong, but it is very bad if you don't have any ventilation, because there may be pockets of humidity which is very difficult to get rid of at this kind of humidity levels, and there can be some mold growing, and say it could be something like if you were to spray this plant and there was some water trapped in between the leaves, it could stay there for a very long time at that humidity without any ventilation for a very, very long time, and that could rot that whole plant, the stem of that plant, very badly. So it's very important to have a little bit of ventilation. I have these 5 fans connected with this semi-transparent cable that you can see here, and this cable connects them all together, and then it goes outside with this rather ugly cable that I need to fix, to be honest. And outside they are connected to a let me show you. They are connected to transformer, a charger, I'm not sure what you call it, but that is adjustable, so I can adjust the volts from 3 to 12. At the moment, to run 5 fans, I've set it to 12, and they produce just a pleasant breeze. At this humidity, they really won't be drying your plants up, so they can even be relatively strong, to be honest. I've considered something that I could mount on the wall that would just swing left to right the whole day, but those are probably going to be a little bit too strong, and it's going to be complicated to tune it down, and probably they will be a little bit too noisy. So in the end, I think that this works very well. Pretty cheap, pretty easy to do. Obviously, make sure that you do a very good job at waterproofing those connections that you made with this cable. So we talked about ventilation. Let's talk about humidity a little bit. I have this Bluetooth unit that records the temperature and the humidity for 3 months straight, and then you can synchronize it with your phone. That is pretty handy to make sure that you're getting the right parameters even when you are not here. And to be honest, I now do know that I get pretty good parameters, so I don't even terribly need it, but it is very good to have it. It's very good to have it at the very least, because you need temperature, something to measure the temperature, especially because you see this room is south facing, and I'm a little bit worried that in summer it's going to become too warm. Well, I already know that it's going to become too warm probably, so I need to make sure that I keep an eye on the temperature, because in the high 20s centigrade, plants may start to struggle a little bit. And when they do, I will open this little window at the top of it, which will help to evacuate hot air, and then I will open the window of the room. So I believe that we have talked about everything beside the light. Now the light, my camera is going crazy, might focus on that. This light is a 130 watts plant light that I bought from Amazon. It came pretty cheap, and it can be adjusted here from pretty low. Obviously you wouldn't be able to see what the actual light output is through a camera, because that you just cannot do, but it can go. I'm keeping it at about 50%, and I'm still playing around with it. I don't know how much I should set it up, but I think it's between 50% and 100% for me personally. I think that I missed a trick here, because to be honest, I now think that I could have maybe just got 3 very good spotlights and place them one over each shelving unit that I've got. Maybe I will do something like that later also, because in summer I feel that this light may make the whole greenhouse a little bit too warm. So I talked to you about the water, the ventilation, the greenhouse in general, humidity, and the light, and I think that that's it. I don't think I have anything more to say about this setup. I will make videos with more details about each of those things later on, so I have a lot more to say, but not any more topics. So I'll probably make a video for each of those, and if you do have any questions, do let me know. I will also make a video about all of my plants at some other point. So thank you, bye for now.